Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the only global podcast focused purely on the superficial aspects of cycling. I am your regular host, Alex. I am back this week from a 1 week hiatus, and I am joined by my regular co-hosts, Tony and Warren. Guys, how you doing?
We're doing great. We missed you. My hosting I think was impeccable, but we always miss the true star, the captain of the team.
Yeah, very high grade on your hosting. Things got a little bit crazy at my real job for me, so I had to take a 1 week break. To be honest, they're still crazy, but I'm just gonna grind it out tonight. I do want to give a big grazie mille to our friend Italian Alex, who subbed in for me last week. I thought he had a great performance on the show, excellent takes. And we'll for sure have him back on the program at a later time.
He's maybe a decade younger than us, so he had a different brought a different flair to it. He kept saying when he shows his fits, it took me a second to realize what he meant, but that's the young term for meaning your outfits.
And he did allude a couple times to how old you guys were, which I thought was interesting approach for a new guest on the podcast. But he
dangerously close to revealing our identity.
Yeah, but look, he did it with panache. So, again, big thank you to Italian Alex. One thing you guys talked about on the show, which, elicited a lot of responses on Instagram. So our listeners feel very strongly about this. And I thought you guys had a very interesting discussion, was on your top 5 kid brands. And just as we started the show, since I wasn't here last week, I thought I might chime in and give you guys my top 5 brands. You haven't heard what it is before, so this will come as a surprise to you. So feel free to comment as I go along, and I'll start with number 5. I'll go up to number 1 along the way. So my number 5 is a bit of an unusual one. Tony, I think you put Spexel in number 5. I had a good laugh out of that. My number 5 is actually going to be Jackroo. For those who aren't familiar with Jackroo, so Jackroo is a sort of custom kit brand from Canada. If you're designing a custom kit for your team or your club, you can send the design to Jackroo and they'll make it for you. We've made a few with Jackroo, this crew that's on the podcast today. We've made a few with them, and look, I've always been super impressed with the fit overall. The fit of the jerseys is super pro. They have this lightweight jersey that I really like, and Jackroo is in my top 5 at number 5.
I just want to say, Alex, I actually originally had Jackroo as my number 5 for the pretty much the same reasons you just listed. They have great quality, and you can pretty much get any design you like. And, we obviously all have great taste, so anything we design looks amazing. And Jackroo makes it happen, and they make it happen. Honestly, the production turnaround is usually like 2 weeks or less. I mean, that was pre-COVID, but they've been really good. I can't remember why I decided to drop them, but yeah.
I mean, I do want to say because they're really good, but they offer a very wide range of jersey and bib types based on price, which is a good offer to give to the people looking to do custom kits. But I have noticed, because we've done some custom kits purchasing on the lower end and then buying on some of their sort of higher end stuff. There's a real difference in sort of fit and quality from their sort of lower end price point to the higher end. So
I find that for a guy who puts Spexel in his top 5, that's a bit rich of a take to have, to say that the Jackroo low end is bad.
Listen, I'm going to let you get to your other 4, but we had a lot of people chime in on Instagram. I posted a question on Instagram. There was a little bit of Spexel hate, but a lot of Spexel love. I also just want to say just sort of quickly that with the number of brands people sent in, stuff that most of it I've heard of, a couple I haven't. It shows we're in a really good place in cycling fashion and cycling kit. There's a lot of amazing stuff out there. We could do a million top 5s, and everyone would have a different thing.
Okay, I'll keep things rolling around here. Go to my number 4. So number 5 was Jackroo. Number 4, this didn't come up in your discussions with Italian Alex. No one brought up that brand. I think it deserves to be in the top 5. And for me, it would be Café du Cycliste. French brand. Look, it's not for everyone. I think, they're definitely bucking the trend of monochrome, minimal. They are a maximalist brand. And I think they're quite happy with that. And I like that French style. Quality is very good. The fits I find aren't super pro, but I think they make it up in the how interesting the designs are. So I got to put them in there at number 4.
Yeah, similar to what Warren said. Like I regretted that. I had them. They sort of slipped my mind, and then I kind of thought of it right after, and I thought maybe I should put them in because they've been sort of one of my longest lasting jerseys. I must have bought this years ago. Still feel very comfortable in it. I would say, yeah, they have a little bit of a loose fit, which is maybe my heavier days might have been a little bit better. But when you got that, that Lachlan Morton body, it can be a bit baggy on you. Yeah, no, it's great.
Number 3, you guys talked about it, so I won't spend much time on this, but I got to put La Passione at number 3. It's very simple reason why they're in there. I think when you get into cycling, you build your kit wardrobe, you go to your basics, your essentials. Just go to lapassione.cc, order a bunch of stuff. You won't go wrong. It was very good quality, very good price. Now, there is one caveat to this that I don't like, something they've done recently. I talked about the slogans before, worth the effort. That's dumb. Just throw that in the canal. But they're trying to pitch Tom Bonen as a style icon right now. They've got the Bonenberg collection, and this is just a no for me. Tom Bonen is a legendary cyclist. He's classics, all-time great. But Tom Bonen was never a style icon. The only good thing I can say about Tom Bonen is that he looks like Warren. But other than that, Tom Bonen is not a style icon. Stop that, please. But still, I got to put La Passione at number 3.
I just want to note my ears look better than his ears, though.
He's got those pointy, like devil
Spock
ears.
He's got Spock ears.
Yeah. This is a bit like it's on top of it, a bit off topic because we're talking about Tom Bonen, and I've thought about this a lot. How it's interesting how professional cyclists, like everything Tom Bonen did during his career, I loved. I love the Paris-Roubaix wins. I love the green jersey. I don't know if he won a green jersey, but the sprints at the Tour. I love the cocaine. I love the excuses for the cocaine, that it was actually an alcohol problem. But at no point in all the stuff I loved about him did I ever think this guy's cool. Like he's cool as a cyclist, but not cool as like a style. And I find there's not really any pros that sort of fit that mold. We'll talk. I think we should talk about this later, but that just got me thinking about him a little bit.
We could do an entire episode on Bradley Wiggins off the bike style, but again, we'll leave that for another day.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we could also do an episode on how these legendary cyclists are aging in their post-cycling days, and do a top 5 ranking of Cancellara, Wiggins, Bonen. I think we'll keep that for another day.
Sven still looks great, man. I think he could head back to the CX World Cup and compete.
Yeah. Okay, number 2. So that also didn't come up in your discussion, and I thought that was really interesting. Panormal Studios, it's got to be there at number 2.
I gave it 5th. I put it 5th.
Oh, you put it 5th? Okay,
Yeah.
So, but it has to be hard. Look, render unto Caesar, long live the king. They're the king for a reason. You have to pay respects. I mean, I know we talk a lot of shit about them, and just because it's so ubiquitous and it's so popular, but it is popular for a reason. So many people can't be wrong. Again, they are the king. So, long live the king until they're no longer the king. But I gotta respect it. It fits me great. Their bibs are excellent quality. You can't go wrong with the design. That's it. Alternatively, I could also put Universal Colors at number 2 because it's the same thing as Panorama Studios. They've just copied it all together. But I won't because I'll go to the original right away. Which brings me to my number 1, Q36.5.
Oh,
it has to be Q36.5. The interview we did recently with Prempton of Alpha Velo, the shop in Toronto. Listen to the interview with Prempton. He explains why Q36.5 is the greatest brand of all time, the technology, the design, the innovation. I have become very curious since the interview with Prempton on Q36.5. So for me, I have to say it's the greatest.
We got a lot again. Like I'm going to go back. We're recording this after I posted on Instagram, and we got a lot of love for that. And I was surprised, not so much that it's not a great brand and does, really good stuff. Just that, it's price point and its sort of uniqueness, could get some people out. But we spent a lot of money in cycling, and it sounds like Q36.5 is worth it. in terms of what it sort of brings. So, I mentioned it before. I think Alex will be in town shortly in Toronto for Montreal, and we'll grab a Spro and a chat and a shopping spree with Prempton at Alphaville. It'll be
Or
be a
alternatively,
whole
maybe
thing.
we'll fly over to Bolzano and we'll go have a Spro with Luigi Bergamo in Bolzano in the factory. Maybe we'll go Prenton too. But
Yeah, Prempton, come along.
all right, so that's my top 5. I didn't want to be left out. I thought it was a good discussion, so I thought I'd chime in on this. Okay, so introducing a brand new segment. It's called the Europe Report, and we have a special guest on the podcast who is our European correspondent. His name is Harry Ashman. You can find him on Instagram at Harry__Ashman. If you just type Harry Ashman, you should find him there as well. He's a writer from the United Kingdom. He lives in London, and he actually works for Wahoo as well in London. Harry, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Yeah, it's good to be here. And yeah, I hope I can bring some hot takes to this famously hot take environment.
Absolutely. And what's interesting with Harry is that he lives in London. So he's obviously very familiar with the trends that are coming out of London. Europe is the cycling epicenter. It's where a lot of trends emerge and then go on to become trends. But Harry does not only ride in the United Kingdom, he also travels extensively to the continent in order to ride. Harry, you go to Spain quite frequently, and I believe that you have just returned from a cycling trip in Spain.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough. My partner is from Spain, so I get to go over there quite a bit, specifically to the city of Barcelona, where I've just come back from. But I also take the occasional training camp to places like Tenerife, or I'll do a cycling trip over to somewhere like Amsterdam. But yes, my most recent trip, which I've just returned from, is Barcelona.
So let's talk about some of the trends that you've seen over in Catalonia, in Barcelona. What have you seen? So obviously the seasons are changing. We're getting into the off season for pros. For us, it's not the off season. We keep riding. But what are you seeing in terms of fall, winter trends over in Europe?
Sure. So I've been lucky enough that I've been going to Spain for a while now. And traditionally, when you would go to Spain at this time, or pretty much anywhere in continental Europe, you would see a marked change in riders basically moving into full winter kit. In Europe, they really don't do the shoulder seasons very well. You don't really see arm warmers and leg warmers or knee warmers. They're going straight to long tights, winter jackets, gilets, caps. But this time, I've noticed that the older generation is still doing that transition. So still going straight to the winter kit as soon as they see, a temperature of, let's say, 20 degrees, as crazy as that sounds. But the younger generation over here in Spain is still going for more of a traditional approach where they're wearing normal bibs and short sleeve jerseys and maybe at most like a light aero gilet, something like that. So I think partly a style thing. Younger guys want to look cool on the bike for as long as possible because, as we all know, winter kit doesn't look as good. But I think also it's a speed thing. These guys are doing these crazy fast group rides, which we all know are secretly races. And obviously winter kit is slow. It doesn't help you go fast. So wearing summer kit for as long as you can helps you go fast on the group ride and beat your friends.
Yeah, see, from a style perspective, I'm in sort of complete agreement with the younger generation Spaniards. Is that I don't like winter kit. Like I was on a ride with Warren, early morning ride here in Toronto this week, and it was quite cold, or not Canadian cold, but getting colder. And it took everything for me to pull out the leg warmers. I avoided the thermal jersey. I avoided the jacket. I went gilet, no shoe covers, like all this sort of stuff. That's the hallmark of putting on winter gear. It was just hard for me. Like I put on gloves because I just knew, my hands would be too cold. But from a style perspective, I prefer summer kit. I prefer the way, my legs look when they're shaved and tanned. I don't like that, addition, that sort of bulky layering. I think that, and I think in general, it's harder to style winter kit. People don't sort of have as much, you've got to be a little bit more thoughtful when you're adding arm warmers and gilets and jackets and headbands and stuff like that. And so sometimes it looks like such a mishmash, and maybe someone who doesn't ride that often in cooler weather, they're pulling something out that they got for free from a Grand Fondo or something. So from a style perspective, I'm a big like summer kit guy. Like winter kit breaks my heart, and I've got to really feel cold before I'll accept it.
So I used to agree with you, Tony, on that, and I think from a purely aesthetic standpoint, you're right. Summer kit just looks better. Yeah, there's no argument there. Now the issue is the following, and I don't want to be in the camp of those older Spanish riders who whip out the winter kit when it's 20 degrees. It's kind of funny actually for us coming from Canada. I went on a ride this morning. It was 3 degrees Celsius. It's late October, so obviously I don't want to have to agree with these older Spanish riders. But I think the reality of winter kit, and especially if you live in a place like, Northern Europe, could be Scandinavia, could be the north of England, or, Canada, which is basically the worst, is that, your winter riding and your fall and spring riding will only be as enjoyable as the quality of the winter kit that you bring to the table. Whether you like winter kit or not, I think is a little bit irrelevant, because if you want to keep riding through those months, I think you will have to wear winter kit. And Tony, I just don't believe you that, let's say it's January, there's no snow on the ground somehow, and it's -2 degrees and you want to go for a ride. I just don't believe you that you're going to wear like, your regular bibs and just a
No, I
slight
mean,
gilet.
you're right there that like I've got the winter kit all sort of suited up, but I'm saying like from a style perspective, it's not good. So if you're talking about the sort of weather, the weather that's going on in Spain, and they're saying it's 12, 13 degrees out or something like that, and they're thinking winter kit. I mean, first, harden the fuck up. I mean, we don't be these cliche Canadians just bitching about everybody's softness when it comes to the cold, but it's the truth. And also that these guys clearly are realizing that it's not that cold. They're going to look better on their group ride and, in their Instagram photos and at the, cafe stop, if they're wearing their summer stuff. So they're not pushing so hard to be like, oh, I got to jump on this. They know, they're learning that, like, wait until they have to. Like you're saying, you're right about January, but it's because I have to. I have no option. Otherwise, I will literally die of hypothermia.
Tony, I think you just said winter kit isn't stylish, and I disagree, because I think there is some stylish winter kit out there. I know, because I own a bunch of it. Another bonus of winter kit is buying more kit and spending more money, which is always fun. But another thing is, I actually find winter kit like to be kind of cozy. You put on some like wool, it's nice and fuzzy. Maybe there's like some no, not flannel. I don't know. I don't know what the materials are, but it feels nice and warm.
Fleece.
Yeah, fleece. That's what I was trying to say. But it's nice. It's like wrapping up in a warm blanket. And yeah, I don't know. You can get some pretty nice winter kit out there. So
Harry, what are some of the brands that you've seen a lot in Spain lately?
The big headline for me that I noticed a lot of is Paz Normal Studios. I feel like it's kind of taken over the world right now, that brand. And yeah, it's pretty hard to miss. Saw loads of guys out in the big, like their equivalent of the box logo, PNS jersey. And then the weird one that I saw quite a bit of as well was Oakley kit. A lot of guys wearing the big O jerseys, obviously with the matching shades. That was also pretty popular as well.
There's negative associations with Oakley over here.
Oakley kit's not very popular around here, and I've seen a bit of it. But my problem is, and it's not really the glasses; it's more sort of the apparel side of it. Is I associate when I see someone in Oakley apparel, especially like a t-shirt or a ball cap or something like that, as the guy who yells at his girlfriend in the mall in sort of front of everybody. Like it's the guy on Tinder holding the fish, in his boat. That's the Oakley guy to me. Like I couldn't bring myself to wear Oakley. I know they're a high-end product. I think the glasses are fine. Like there's a subset of glasses for Oakley, kind of more like the baseball style that, yeah, you would see some guy in his truck yelling some rant about the government controlling us or why vaccines are bad or something. But in terms of the apparel, like the association I have is so negative, and the type of person who like buys Oakley apparel is just like it's so aggressive that for me, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't wear Oakley, so I'm sort of shocked that it's popular over there.
Sutros and Jawbreakers are cool. I agree with you, Tony. There is a subset of Oakley glasses that I don't associate with cycling, that they're just out there in the wild, and I don't really want to be seen wearing them. By the way, is Geraint Thomas's glasses that he wears, like those weird white ones, are those Oakley?
They are Oakley. He's kind of famous for wearing those these days. You know what? They're so niche. I can't even. I'm pretty good with Oakley normally, but even I can't place what those are. But he is the only person that wears those. There's no one else in the UK that wear those, or in Europe.
So Oakley, yeah, you typically associate with Sutros and Jawbreakers. Now, one thing I've seen a lot of lately is Oakley helmets somehow. The helmet with the big O on the side. I don't know how I feel about this helmet yet. I think I would tend to agree with Tony on Oakley apparel. I would not be caught dead in it. As far as the helmets, I'm not sure. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Well, I think the kind of stereotype of Oakley that you guys have is pretty funny. It definitely doesn't exist over here in Europe. We don't really have the guys with the fish or the crazy political people wearing Oakley glasses. It's mostly associated with cycling and performance. So people aren't embarrassed to wear like an Oakley t-shirt. You see it quite a lot, and you see, as I said, a lot of people wearing Oakley kit. In terms of the helmets, I'm a little bit biased. I just joined a team which is sponsored by Oakley, so I will soon be obliged to wear an Oakley helmet for all of my bike rides. So once I've given it a go, I'll report back and let you guys know what I think. But I think they look pretty cool.
Maybe it's because you don't have tailgating over there.
Yeah, no tailgate. But I think if you take the O off, like I think the actual design of the Oakley helmets are pretty nice. But you just got to like, I don't want that O on there, right? I don't want someone, coming
Make
up
it
next
smaller.
to me and be like, hey, yeah, yeah. It's usually oversized stuff is something that usually doesn't sort of go. But
that said, there is a trend of huge logos in cycling in general, especially on bikes. Yes. I mean, if you look at Trek, the way that their new models are coming out, it's like every year the font of the Trek logo is just getting bigger.
We've mocked that like mercilessly, like so have the meme accounts that are, my stance on meme accounts these days, but like the logo on the Trek is so big, it's ridiculous. Like, I think Cannondale, the one of the sort of big brands we respect, they're like, fuck that, we're gonna make the smallest logo possible and put it like on the top tube in the corner, and it's way better.
Everything in cycling is just getting bigger. Like logos are getting larger. I guess riders are getting smaller. That's the only thing. But if you look at, even the size of glasses in general, like Warren bought some 100% a little while back, and they're so ridiculously huge. Maybe Warren has a small head. I'm not sure, but it's just like massive. And the Oakley O kind of fits in that trend.
Actually, I do want to point out, one, I have a big head. So the fact that the 100% look big on me just show that how ridiculously big they are. And I do want to note, my road bike is actually the brand I have is it's called Low. It is he's a small frame builder out of San Francisco, and his logo might be even bigger than a Trek, but I balance that with the restraint everywhere else. And so I don't, I got one big logo on my down tube and that's it. I don't want a O logo. And Harry, maybe the Oakley kit is different over there, but the kit I've seen in North America is just a giant fucking O, either on the front of the jersey or like on your thigh or on the butt.
So they do like two types. You'll see they do minimal logo Oakley kit, and then they do the like maximalist big logo stuff. And it was actually the big logo stuff that I was seeing over in Spain. Just a quick shout out on that topic while we're talking about maximalist crazy logo brands. One to check out if you are actually into big logo stuff is Pop Cycle Company. I believe they're an English brand. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. But they make these crazy jerseys that are just covered in all these kinds of different non-cycling related branding, like, washing up liquid or car parts and crazy
Sounds
things
like God
like
and
that.
Famous out of New York too.
Similar, but way more aggressively branded.
Pop does the water bottles with the logo. So like it'd be like a Rolex logo, but it'll say relax, or a Louis Vuitton logo. I think like for the water bottles I've seen a guy actually with the relax one, and that's kind of like a way to be a bit more fun and have some niche to it. Is that? But yeah, I'm not doing it on a jersey.
I think parody jerseys are in the canal, or any jersey that tries to be funny Yeah,
I believe I
that's a
threw
no for me.
irony into the canal in our very first episode, actually. Just irony as a concept. So
Yeah.
It was on the first episode, but it's still in the canal. I just checked, and it's still in there.
yeah, it hasn't come out.
Yeah, no. So Harry, I know that this isn't actually, speaking of the canal. I know that this isn't in the canal segment, but while we've got you on the podcast, is there anything that you would like to throw in the canal?
Yeah, I'll make it brief because I know we're not in the official segment here. But yeah, I basically want to throw in any socks which are not black or white. And I will give a brief explanation as to why. Basically, whenever you color match a jersey with your socks, it never looks as good as you think it looks. There is only one group I'm aware of that pulls it off almost successfully, and that is the EF Pro team. And they only just do it. So, by default, that means you are also not pulling it off. So, yeah, as a result, you should only be wearing white shoes, white socks, black shoes, black socks. I personally think black shoes and white socks is acceptable, but I know other people disagree.
Hard disagree for me. I think black shoes, white socks is horrible. I would be okay with white shoes, black socks, but not the other way around.
Yeah, for me, I have black shoes and a black helmet, and I exclusively own black socks. I'm willing to admit my past transgressions and sort of earlier on in my cycling, fashion wardrobe. I definitely had some of the kind of when Map was doing a lot of prints and teals and crazy colors and stuff like that. But I've grown up, I've matured, and I've gotten out of that. And so I have black shoes and a matte black helmet. Matte black helmets don't count into the matte back frame category, by the way. And I exclusively wear black socks with it. And that's how I feel. Same with the white shoes, white socks. Sorry to mention match of black and white. That's dicey. Everyone's got kind of disagreements. But yeah, I'm not, I don't need the color. I don't need the fun socks. And I think Harry is right. You really can't pull it off.
This is true. And I would just say for the record, there is no greater flex than box fresh white socks. If you pull up to the group ride with box fresh white socks, that's like plus 15 watts on your FTP, easy.
I agree, and you got to keep them white, and that's why you use bleach when you wash your white socks. Now, okay, so I personally I find this a little bit restrictive. Now, extremely rich of me to come out and say that something is restrictive when I'm the host of a podcast that is just restricting the hell out of everything. But here's the situation. So I agree that black shoes, white shoes, and the appropriate sock combo should be the basis of your wardrobe. It should be your everyday shoe sock combo. However, I think that as you progress in your experimenting of cycling kit and cycling shoes, I think it is acceptable to get a second pair of shoe that might be of a different color. They might be navy, they might be red, and to match those shoes with the same color of socks. Because I do think that if you look at, for example, someone that's wearing a red shoe with a red sock or a navy shoe with a navy sock, I think that can look extremely good as well. And I'll just say that a couple of weeks ago, we had a special guest on the podcast, Prempton Batku of the shop Alpha Velo in Toronto. And he talked about a bespoke cycling shoemaker out of Italy by the name of Luigino Verducci, who makes a bespoke gold shoe, which I think looks incredible. Now, it is a very bold move, but I think if you can pull it off, I think that looks incredible as well.
I have very strong opinions about the color gold. I see gold as the same as a world championship jersey. Unless you have won Olympic gold or some other event which gives you a gold medal, there should be no gold on your person or on your bike. It is reserved for champions of the like of Filippo Ganna, Richard Carapaz, mere mortals like us. It shouldn't be on your person.
What about if you have a really bad bike crash and you need like a gold tooth? What about that?
Okay, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah, all right,
Okay.
I'll let you off for that. That's
And then the
cool.
shoes would match the tooth. So
No, the shoes are still a big no-no, but the tooth can stay.
If you're throwing gold Rolex in the canal, there's a lot of 60-year-old plus CEOs that are going to be upset with that. I think it's it's certainly a bold take there. I'm going to have to disagree. I think I agree on the world champion stripes just because it's so iconic and you have to have earned those. But gold is, I just don't think you can restrict any gold to Olympic medal winners.
Well, I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm glad I was able to bring a hot take. I felt like that was truly hot.
Well, that's why we got you on the podcast, Harry, and we will have you on again to discuss trends in Europe with this new segment called the Europe Report. So again, thank you very much, Harry Ashman, for joining us on this week's podcast. Again, you can follow Harry on Instagram at Harry__Ashman. Follow his cycling adventures in Regent's Park, London, and elsewhere in Europe. Harry also, obviously being on this podcast, he has very strong takes about cycling kits. So you can see what kind of kits he's wearing there on Instagram. So thank you very much, Harry, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Speak soon.
Okay, moving on to our next segment, perhaps our most famous segment, I feel, at this point, because we got people reaching out to us, asking us, what are we going to throw into the canal? And so that's what we're about to do right here, throw things from the world of cycling that we don't like into the canal. We'll start with Tony this week.
Yeah, I'm sort of surprised that it's taken, this many episodes to get here. And I think it's because most cyclists know not to do this. And it's only sort of recently a friend sent me a picture of a couple cyclists and pointed it out. So I'd almost forgotten that some people still do this. And that is low/ankle socks. There is a correct sock length that you're supposed to wear. I mean, that can vary a little bit, but only within half an inch. So ankle socks, no socks, low socks, those are all into the canal. I think in general, cyclists know this. I haven't seen it, so that's kind of why I think it's waited this long to be my into the canal. But, now that I was reminded of it, I just want to make sure any listeners out there who think that maybe, it's acceptable sometimes, it is never, you shouldn't have low socks, ankle socks, especially no socks is disgusting. We got a whole other issue there, but so that's into the canal. I'm sure you can find a diagram of the correct height. Maybe we'll put one together for everybody, but I think it's an obvious one, which is why it's taken so long.
Yeah, I mean, ankle socks is a big triathlon thing. It should be banned from road cycling, there's no reason to wear ankle socks. Just don't tell me that you're getting this extra wind on your legs, that it's cooling you down. It just doesn't make sense.
I think just in general, triathlon should be banned just from life.
Yeah, sleeveless jerseys are just.
Although Cheapo wears them, but mainly because he wants.
Yeah, but you're not him, right?
It's not Cheapo, but my biceps got larger as a result of lifting a baby for the last year, which I know is bad from a cycling perspective.
But you said this before, when you're so good at the rules, you can break them, and that's Cheapo, right? Like he's been a fashion icon in cycling since he started.
Yes.
The tiger print skin suits for time trials, and if you're a regular person just riding around at on your local sea level group ride, you can't pull it off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chippo's the only one who can do a triathlon, actually.
Okay, all right. I'll do my canal item this week, and it's going to be a little bit unpopular, I think, a little bit controversial maybe. And actually, we had a really interesting discussion a couple of episodes ago with a special guest, Virginie Palermo, who is an brand ambassador for Panorama Studios and Alba Optics, among other brands. She came on the podcast. We had a great interview with her. She told us how she got into cycling, how she became a brand ambassador, and a whole bunch of topics. So go back and listen to the episode. But she mentioned something that really got me thinking on the podcast. And she made a really eloquent case that the community is what got her into cycling. And I'm actually going to take the other side of that tonight, and I'm going to throw the community into the canal. Now, you may ask why. I may sound like a curmudgeon, and maybe I am to some extent, but there are good sides to the community, like the coffee ride, the group ride, having fun chats during the ride, the more kind of social aspect of cycling, which is for sure fun. But there can also be some pretty bad sides to the community. It could be people showing up to group events and being very judgy about what other people are doing or wearing, which I understand is extremely rich coming from us, a podcast that is basically telling you what to wear and what not to wear. But I hope you understand that there's an element of second degree in our podcast here. But, people kind of passing judgment on what other people are doing with their lives, or maybe even veering into the political realm sometimes, saying, judging the kind of people that are present at a certain event, or whether they're using a car in their regular life instead of a bicycle to get anywhere. And I'm sorry, but that's just really annoying. I'm in the camp that live and let live in the world of cycling should probably be the way to go. And to some extent, like, the community can be a little bit annoying sometimes. And, there's, like I said, there's good and bad to the community. And I'm just going to throw the community into the canal.
So I'm 50-50 on you here a little bit, because I agree with some of those statements. I agree with all the positive stuff, and I love that part. And I agree with some of those statements, maybe, some of the outwardly judgy stuff, or certain sort of, certain things. But I'll put this on record, and I've been on record with anybody who asks me, I love gossip. So when you're part of a community and you start to get to know these people tangentially, and then you start to know a little bit more, and you're getting in those group chats, you're on a group ride, you hear about this person, you hear about that person, absolutely love it. Like, it's not the positive part of the community, which is, I'm sure, what Virginia was talking about. I'm talking about the negative part of the community. I want to hear the shit talk about the other riders that I was on a group ride yesterday. They didn't come. Now here's why they shouldn't be invited. Here's all this stuff. I'm sure people talk about it with me, and so I don't really care, but, like, I'm into the gossip of the community. I like the bad parts of the community.
On the topic of hot goss, and, like, cyclists dating each other, it's a veritable, like, Melrose Place. So I'm with Tony on that, on the gossip aspect of the community. I'm very, very much also want to hear all of the things. So if you have some hot goss about whatever your community is, DM us on Instagram and let us know. And, who knows, maybe that can become a segment somehow.
But don't you guys have plenty of that in your non-cycling lives?
We don't have a non-cycling life anymore. This is the thing. Because you're not part of the community. You've thrown the community in the canal. You still have other things going on. For us, it's just cycling. That's where our friends are.
The thing is, I get plenty of that entertainment in my regular non-cycling life. So I don't see why I need the cycling community to provide more of that.
Yeah, but I'm also, like, I love it so much. Like Warren says your DMs, like, I don't need to know your group of people. Like, just say, like you could be wherever. You could be in Cape Town right now, and if you just sent me a story of some person, like Warren said, a couple who was dating, and one person didn't like that the other person got faster and started dropping them on group rides. I don't even need to know them, and I want to read about it. Maybe you just don't appreciate the goss enough. Maybe you just, maybe you need it to be too personal. So
there's the whole issue of when, people get politics into cycling, and I don't want to hear about it. I just want to ride my bike, look good in great kit that's also very expensive, and that's all I care about. Well, hey, I knew this was a controversial take. I knew I was heading into hostile territory here by throwing the community into the canal, but that's what I'm here for. The contrarian takes, I had to do it. Warren, what do you got this week?
So this week, not unlike ankle socks, I feel like this will be a fairly, like, known thing among our listeners in the cycling world, and probably not looked upon favorably. And it's actually not a thing, it is a person. So this week I'm going to throw Assos guy into the canal. And I imagine most of our listeners, when I say Assos guy, they almost certainly know who I'm talking about. He is the extremely ripped gentleman with spiky dark hair and, like, butterfly eye sunglasses, who for a very long time modeled all of the men's Assos stuff, and he always takes, like, action figure poses. He looks like he's, like, in a bobsled at one point. He points his fingers down like they're, like, blades or something. I don't know, he looks like an action figure in a way. He looks that stiff in real life. And actually, as I was, like, preparing to throw him in the canal, I actually went on Assos' website, and he's not there anymore. Looks like they've gone the no model route, and
He's been thrown into the
I
canal.
guess they threw
He's
him in
been
the
in the
canal.
canal.
Yeah.
So my main beef, I agree with you, Warren, and my main beef with Assos guy is that he flat out refuses to wear a shirt. And you know these restaurants that say no shirt, no service? Like that's my policy towards Assos guy. So he's definitely in the canal.
See, when I saw you wrote this, I thought you meant like the like generic Assos guy, meaning like every town's got the Assos guy
Oh no.
who like, because I feel like that guy, like the model guy, is also exists. Like it's like Assos manifests him in each town that they're present in, and there's someone who is like trying to copy that. There's some guy, you know, usually a little bit older, who's like super ripped and like wears only that, and it's like you know always riding by themselves. It's like there's like a generic Assos guy.
No, we're talking about the actual Assos guy.
No, I know what you're talking about, but it got me thinking about how like that guy kind of exists in every town, like some version of that model.
I think I know exactly what you mean, Tony. There is an Assos guy probably in every cycling scene, certainly in North America and probably the world. And I would also throw that Assos guy into the canal as well.
They're also like big. Like the problem is they're like we had our top 5 kit brands, and you know people coming back, but like the Assos guy is like big on it. Like it's like too much, right? Like they're not like, oh, I like these few things. Where they're like, no, this is the best. Like you don't understand. Like you guys are all fools for thinking anything but Assos is the best. Like, and it's like, okay, it's ugly shit to begin with. And I don't know. I mean, you know, technical fabrics, like they're not inventing this stuff. I mean, you know, these other brands, but like they're so obsessed with it. You never see them in anything else.
The Assos people are very evangelical about Assos. Now, I don't own any, but from what I read, it's actually very high quality. Apparently, it's very, very well made stuff. I can't hate on something that's from Switzerland too much. I just love the country so much. So I don't know. I don't think I'm willing to throw. I don't think I'm willing to throw Assos itself into the canal. But I think Assos guy is in the canal for sure.
I'd throw the whole brand in there. It's done. It's meh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like, you know, we're obviously sort of, you know, hoping for some free stuff, some free swag. And the question is, if we got, you know, if Assos contacted us and say, hey, you know, we want to do a new review, or, you know, here's what we love the podcast here.
We want to change your mind about Assos.
There's a kid. I don't know. Could I accept it? I mean,
I couldn't.
I guess I could do it. I guess I could wear it on the trainer, right? It could replace my my ass window Rafa bibs, and I could just wear it on the trainer, because I don't know if I'd want to be out in public doing it. But I'm sure this will offend a lot of people, because Assos people are like
gonna get some angry DMs.
They only do that, you know. Although they would, you know, they probably wouldn't listen to this anyways, because they're just like, it's the only brand they want. Why would they want to hear about other brands? You got Assos,
the Assos army.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not throwing Assos in the canal. I think they have enough street cred, enough technical kind of background and innovation. Like they really seem like they're there. Maybe just to piss you guys off, I'll go and buy some Assos.
But that's what Q 36.5 is there for, right? It's there for maybe being not as sort of, I don't want to say fashion forward, because it is, but sort of the same kind of, you know, branding style and way that you know, Panorama, those colors or whatever is. But like they're kind of about this thing where they're like a high price point, top quality, comfort. So like if I'm already looking at that, saying like, okay, I want the best quality stuff that kind of works like that, I'm going Q36.5. Why am I spending the same price point, right? Same kind of cost. So I can't get behind Assos. And I've never owned any, so I'm kind of talking to my ass.
But the one thing I will give Assos is, I think it was last year, they released a winter jacket that cost $800. And, you know, as a lover of all things consumerism, I respect that.
Yeah, I respect that for sure, too.
It's kind of like they're basically sending the message like, fuck you, you can't afford my jacket. And which is great. That gets my dumb brain working automatically. Is Fabian Cancellara doing stuff with Assos because he's Swiss? Did I invent that? Or I think he's...
Yeah, I think he does, yeah.
Okay. I feel like Cancellara would be a bit more of a style guy than Bonin as far as classics guys go, but I don't know.
I wouldn't say the Swiss like Roger Federer and such, the Swiss athletes are sort of known for their great you know, sports style.
Federer is a Rolex ambassador.
Yeah, I mean that's good, but he had Nike and then he switched to Uniqlo, and he does the On shoes. I think he bought into the company, so there's probably some reason behind that. But Federer was never. I love tennis, and Federer was never someone I looked at and thought, man, I gotta get that RF Roger Federer Nike T-shirt and look good on the court. He definitely didn't have. He was no Agassi, that's for sure.
Anyway, look, if you think we're wrong on Assos, and for sure the Assos guys that are listening to this podcast, if there's any Assos gals as well, I'm sure there's a lot of them. Send us a DM. Let us know where we're wrong at Cycling Fashion Week on Instagram, and we might even read them on the podcast next week. Okay, moving on to our next segment. We rate your bike for free. Last week, while I was away, the guys did We Rate Your Kit for a Fee. That's the alternative version of that segment. But basically, you can send us an email at cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com with a couple pics of your bike, and we will rate it on the show, tell you what we would improve. And we'll essentially, the idea about the kit is the same thing. Send us photos of your team or club kit, and we'll rate it on the podcast. You can also send us a DM at Cycling Fashion Week. So this week, we have an email from a gentleman named Godfrey. He is from Ontario, Canada. He says, "Hi, gang. Here is my bike. Please rate it and feel free to praise it, rip it apart, or even throw it in the canal. Apologies for the chimney on my stem. Will get it cut ASAP." So he knows who he's talking to. I appreciate that. Thank you, Godfrey. So let me get into the bike and then we will rate it. So the brand and the model, so that's a Factor 02. So Factor bikes, the brand of carbon bikes that is currently used by Israel Startup Nation team. The wheels on his bike are hand-built wheels from Blacksmith, which is a shop, with Wanderlust rims and i9 torch hubs laced with GP 5000. The group set is Shimano Ultegra R8020. So the bike, in terms of the paint job, so it's a very crisp white color, except that the upper the upper tube of the rear triangle is black, and the black continues diagonally a little bit onto the top tube. So it creates this nice sort of diagonal visual. When you look at the bike, there's not much sloping to the top tube, slightly sloped, but pretty level overall. The rims that he talks about, the Wanderlust rims, I'm going to guess that these are 25 millimeter rims. They're not very deep. He has an exceptionally clean chain and cassette. This is literally so clean that it's shining. I've hardly seen a cassette this clean. So this bike must be straight out of the shop, or he's extremely OCD about cleaning his bike. Another thing I'm noticing, which I feel is kind of cool, he's got a red pulley wheel on his group set. I can't tell if it's a ceramic speed. I'm going to go with no, but it is red, and it definitely pops. He's obviously got disc brakes. This is a modern, very recent bicycle. He's got a pretty thin saddle bag there on the back. He is running a light on his bike. Warren, you threw that in the canal a couple of weeks ago. Internal cable routing. The cages there look like they're black carbon cages. And that's Godfrey's Factor 02. Guys, what did we think about it?
So I just want to start off by saying, and we post these on our Instagram so people can see them. We describe them and then we give our rating, and all of them have been pretty high. And I'm shocked. I thought we were going to get some junkers in here, and I don't know if it's just the audience we command. That obviously, if you're interested in cycling fashion, that they they're going to know the rules and sort of take time with their bike. But all these bikes are 8+. I give this one, I think I give this one an 8.5. He mentioned the chimney, but he hasn't cut it, so that still brings him down. I love a white bike. I don't know why. I just always loved the white bike. I kind of actually don't love the black accent to it. The wheels, Blacksmith is a Toronto shop. I love them. That's where Warren and I got our bikes. Shout out to Blacksmith. Probably built by Jesse, your mechanic's favorite mechanic. So I appreciate that, but they're just not deep enough. And I don't know, why that choice was to go with a relatively shallow rim, but they're just not deep enough. So for those few reasons, I'm going to only go 8.5.
So Tony, I think the Factor 02, just to intervene here, the Factor 02 is Factor's climbing bike. It's the most kind of lightweight bike in their range. And I believe that in keeping with the spirit of the climbing bike, Godfrey probably didn't feel like putting 70 millimeter deep rims there.
Yeah, I don't care. Deep rims. I mean, they'll be selling me, but I want deep rims on all bikes. I don't care. We care if you're climbing or not. We're talking about the look of the bike. I'm not talking about the performance of the bike.
Also, if he's from Ontario, he can't be climbing that much, because I look at you guys' ride on Strava and you've got like 92 meters of positive elevation for like a 100-kilometer ride. So and by the way, since you love the community so much, you just stay in the pack the whole time, pushing 120 watts for an average of 33 kilometers an hour, and call yourselves great cyclists.
We've got Dutch hills. We've got some Dutch hills here.
I'm just gonna add, I mostly agree with Tony's rating. I had the same thought as Alex, that the reason for the shallower rims was it's a climbing bike, but I agree with Tony. It doesn't matter. Make them deep. I also just wanted to give a shout out to his like very immaculate positioning of his crank is like almost perfectly horizontal. The valve stems on the tires the rear one is almost perfectly at 6 o'clock. The front one's almost there too. Also, the stem looks like a nice length. So where I am going to detract some points and give it about an 8 or 8.2, I don't know, is, Alex, you mentioned that factor is the bike that they sponsor Israel Startup Nation. Unfortunately, they also sponsor Phil Guyman. So I definitely need to subtract some points for having any kind of association with Phil Guyman, because he's not funny. His videos are basically just 30 minutes of sponsor logos, him trying to sell you whatever the weird data system is that is his main sponsor. And then he shits on oatmeal raisin cookies, which he's wrong about.
Love oatmeal raisin.
Yeah. So I know it has nothing to do with the bike. The bike's beautiful, but I'm sorry, Godfrey, I have to knock some points. You might not even know who Phil Guyman is. And if you don't, look him up, or actually don't look him up on YouTube. You're better off.
If they don't know who he is, that's a positive for them in their life, right? Like sometimes a lack of knowledge can bring happiness. And if I had never come across Phil Guyman and his clean tattoo soap and clean soap tattoo and stuff like that, I think my life would have been just a little bit better.
If I locked you up in a room with a laptop that you couldn't change the website on, and I told you have to watch Phil Guyman videos for the next 5 hours or vegan cyclists for the next 5 hours, which one would you pick?
Vegan cyclists, for sure.
Yeah, no question.
I think they're both kind of unbearable, but Vegan Cyclist has more interesting content, and he sounds a little more authentic too.
Vegan Cyclist also doesn't have the baggage of making the world tour twice and then just not being able to hack it. And so he's like somebody who I see Vegan Cyclist as, I find his videos can be a bit annoying, but he's an average guy who has worked himself
just a California
really
bro
but he's worked himself into really great fitness, and he goes on these like wild adventures and tries to make hour-long videos, whereas Phil Guyman's like, oh, I'm going after a KOM again, and that's all he does.
Yeah. So can I just talk about Godfrey's bike just to bring this back?
Oh yeah,
that's what we're talking about. I have some thoughts. So I think
what's your number, Alex? I feel like you avoid the number often.
Yeah, so I'm going to go 7.5 here, and I'm going to agree with everything you guys said. It's very, for me, I actually give him points for how clean his chain and cassette are. I literally can't believe how clean it is. I don't think I've ever gotten mine this clean. So congratulations, Godfrey, for keeping your drivetrain this clean. I mean, I like the bike in general. It's just a little boring overall. It's a little bland. I find I'm just missing a little excitement with this bike. And, I appreciate that it's very high quality stuff. It's very nice. I agree with you on the wheels. Rims could be a little deeper, but I also understand it's a climbing bike, although I'm not sure where he's climbing, living in Brampton, Ontario. But yeah, so the other thing, I appreciate the white in the paint job. I think it definitely pops. It's nice. But white bikes is something that as I've gotten older, there's a lot of things that I like and appreciate, but that as I've gotten older, I realize I don't need to own them necessarily. When I was younger, in my 20s, I would have said, oh, I need a white bike, or, oh, I want this thing. And I just wanted everything. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of chilled out a little bit about this, and white bikes are in that category. I like them from afar. I don't need to own them necessarily. So Yeah, very well done there, Godfrey. I like the bike. It just lacks a little excitement for me, and that's why I'm going to go 7.5. I just want to say something about ratings as well. I think we've rated bikes pretty high on the podcast so far, and we've given people constructive criticism. I posted, I think it was like 3 weeks ago on our Instagram, this build that I had been working on as my secondary road bicycle, which is a Trek 5200 from 2003 with the U.S. Postal paint job. So, pretty well, not unique. I don't know if it's unique. I think a lot of people have owned this bike, but it's not something that you see on the road every day nowadays, because I'm sure a lot of these bikes are in the landfill now, as dentists have sold them and have upgraded to felts and Cervelos over time. But for those people who have held on to either a CAD 5 with the Saeco paint job or a Trek 5200 with the US Postal paint job, I think there's a certain vintage value to this bike. And that's kind of what I've been doing, adding deep rims to it. And so posted it on Instagram, asked the listeners to chime in. And most people, I would say, were very, constructive, giving it reasonably good ratings. Some people, though, came out there, and there was one person in particular gave it like a 3 out of 10, arguably because they had found some greasy fingerprints on the rear rim, which I thought was an interesting approach to give a 3 out of 10 for greasy fingerprints. The reason why there were greasy fingerprints on the bike was because I had been carrying prosciutto and salchicha on my top tube the way that Mario Cipollini does it when he comes back from his ride in Lucca in Tuscany, which is extremely pro and extremely Euro. So I find it pretty ignorant to give it a 3 out of 10 on the basis of greasy fingerprints. But anyhow, that's just a kind of a side rant that I wanted to get in here.
But you did also get a 7 World Tour titles out of 7,
yes,
which is the correct
Tour de France titles.
Yeah,
Tour de France titles. Yeah,
sorry, Tour de France titles. Yeah,
yeah.
This is the correct 7 Tour titles.
The
out
correct
of,
rating. Correct.
It's the correct rating. 7 out of 7. 7 yellow jerseys out of 7 yellow jerseys. The correct number of yellow jerseys that Lance has won.
Hundreds of billions of dollars raised for cancer as well.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Yeah, so overall, back to Godfrey. Look, very well done, high quality stuff. Again, amazing how clean that drivetrain is. So I think I got to give him a 7.5. For me, I don't know, I just lack a little something here that that would make me a little more excited about it. So again, thank you, Godfrey, for submitting the bike. cyclingfashionweek@gmail.com and @cyclingfashionweek on Instagram. We're happy to rate your bikes and your kits. All right, another episode of Cycling Fashion Week in the books. Special thanks to our guest Harry this week for his very good takes on the Europe report. We hope it'll be a repeat segment where Harry can keep us abreast of what's happening in terms of cycling fashion in the old continent. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Warren, for being on this week. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, follow us on Instagram @cyclingfashionweek. We'll be putting out content in between the episode. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.